Welcome to the Process Podcast. I'm Chris. I'll be your host today, and we have a Q&A session for you today. We asked you on Instagram what questions you have about coaching, how to improve your coaching, what challenges you have about the coaching skill set, and just wonderings about what it is to coach. So we have Tammy and Ed, who are masters of the craft of coaching, to talk about that subject today. Let's listen up, and welcome to the show. Welcome to the Process Podcast. I am your host today, Chris, with Tammy and Ed. Hello, guys.
Hi, Chris.
Hey.
How's it going?
It's going well.
So to start off, just to kind of get us into the conversation mode, I want you to tell me today's low, today's high, and today's why. So your low is just kind of like something that kind of bummed you out, and then your high is something that's got you really motivated, and then your why is what's motivating you today to be doing what you're doing. I will start as an example. My low today was I did not have any food until about 9:30 in the morning because I had a medical exam, and then I got really hangry, and I had to deal with people yelling at me in a foreign language because I didn't know how to take off my shirt for an ultrasound. It's like all medical checkup in China for like a visa process. It was fine, but I got hangry at 9:30. My high today was when I got to Coastal. Mark and Ant were doing some EMOMs with wall balls and chest bars, and then they're like, Chris, you want to do it? I said, yeah, fuck yeah, let's do some CrossFit because I've been doing a lot of CrossFit lately. And then I managed to get 20 unbroken chest to bar pull-ups.
You do that every round?
No, I did 10, then 12, then 14, and then I ended up 20, and all of them were unbroken, so
very
it was
good.
a good time. And my wife for today.
That's a PR, no?
I probably, yeah.
Impressive.
Yeah, so then we'll have the.
I was taking a piss when I asked that, but it's genuinely a PR. Fair play.
I mean, I don't do a lot. And my why for today is like why I like doing podcasting is because I love to ask questions, and questions just make my world go round.
Nice.
Wow.
Can you elaborate on the why? What's the why question? Sorry. Your
It's
high,
like-
your low, your high, your why.
Your why and why you do what you do.
Why you do what you do today.
Yeah.
Why you do what you do today.
Yeah. So right now, what I'm focusing on, what I'm doing
gotcha.
is I'm podcasting right now, and
Yeah,
why
yeah.
I'm doing it.
Got it. Tammy,
I love
go
to
for
ask
it.
questions.
Oh, I thought you were gonna go next. My low.
You can only pick one.
Well, I feel like I don't have one. That's the
Oh.
problem. No, okay. My low, and it's a first world problem, guys. First world problem. But they have a new ferry from my island.
Mhm.
Yay. But it has no outdoor seating, and that makes me feel really sad because my favorite part is sitting outside and catching the wind in my hair and looking at the islands and the water. So that's a little bit sad.
But does that mean your old ferry's gone?
No, it's only certain times. So
And is it slower?
it is the same schedule.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yep, it's the same schedule. So
Now it comes as a gift whenever you get to be on it.
I would say it's a gift when I do not need to be on it. I also get like seasick, but if I'm outside, I don't get seasick. So
Interesting.
yeah, I not only don't get views, but I also get sick, and it's not a fun ride. Okay, guys?
Not ideal.
Okay, so that's my low. My high, I actually have 3 notable mentions. So I'm going to say
Oh, hell
3
yeah.
highs.
Okay.
First thing, don't think I've ever seen this number on my Whoop. Oh, I don't have a Whoop, but my Aura Ring. I got 9 hours of sleep last night.
No fucking way.
Yes. The second high was that I coached the 12:30 class and it was testing and it was fucking sick.
That
And
was
my
awesome to see.
third high was that my client farted when they were doing leg presses. It made me laugh a lot. That was good.
Was it a squeaker or was it like one that you could not deny?
It was the one you couldn't deny. It was good.
A
lot of effort.
I'm surprised I didn't hear it because I was close to you guys. When he was on the leg press.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
I would
good.
have loved to hear that.
I love a bit of toilet humor.
Very good.
And then my why. Why am I here right now?
Sure.
I love what we do, and I wish that more people knew about it. And I feel like this is a great tool to be able to do that.
Nice, Tamarind. Okay, my low was it low first, right?
Yeah.
My low was this morning. I'm not gonna throw anyone under the bus by mentioning names here, but my colleague, who is responsible for doing the notes for the Saturday test, they were not done on time.
Okay.
And that just crushed the creative flow this morning. So I had to leave my computer not completing the work, and I like to complete the work before I leave. So that means now we're behind. Anyhow, it's all been sorted now, so we're good. But that was a low to start off the day. The high was a PR 30 ring muscle ups for time.
What?
Yeah, that was
Hey.
PR.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What did you get?
320.
Wow.
Manufactured excitement.
I know. I think I was doing the math.
She's trying to figure out if that's actually good or not.
I
I can see.
Like,
I know her
that's
cogs.
cool, man.
She's like thinking about.
I actually was like, how many muscle ups per minute does that mean? And I was like, that's impressive.
Well, I'm happy with it.
You should
There was
be.
also there was one bit as well where I jumped up to the rings and missed the right ring. I don't know why I've done this twice now. And so when you send the ring into orbit, and it was just flying, and it was like aggressively flying, and I was just waiting for it.
So you went to grab it, but then instead you swatted it
I don't know
away?
why I've done this twice now. It's with these new grips I have. I jump up, my left one hand latches on and the other doesn't.
I see.
And so the other one just hits it, and I'm like swinging with one arm. I've done it twice now. I did it last week.
Yeah.
And then, I did
that's
that when I
good.
was ready to like jump up and go. So I probably lost another 15 seconds there, just waiting for that ring to slow down.
Yeah.
So I think I could have even gone like close to 3 minutes, maybe sub. It was cool because I've done that test now like 5 times. I think it's my 5th test. And I've always gone, we're quite similar on this, like small sets.
Yeah.
Small conservative sets
Yeah.
from the start, like 4 to 5 reps every 20, 30 seconds or something like that. And this time I did the same in my handstand push-up test. I was like, okay, I'm just going to do a big set to start and just go by feel, not even look at the clock and just chip away in smaller sets. So I did that, and actually it paid off. So pretty happy with that. That was my high. And then my why for the day, because you guys both talked about the podcast, I'll talk about the meeting that the 3 of us just had, which is about the individual coaching course. So we are 9 months since launching it now, and I think it was time for us to have a reevaluation of the course and what's been going well, opportunities for growth and improvement, and really where we want to take the course moving forward. So we had the first of, we're gonna have another meeting next week, but 2 brainstorming meetings. I think we made some really good. We all went away, did some good research, and I'm really excited to now piece it all together and lay out a plan for where we want to take the course in the next year or so. So yeah, very excited to. I think that we're all on the same page as well, and we got some things we want to really sink our teeth into. So that's the why. Oh, that's not even the why. That's just what I did. why I like that.
I'm just going to outline everything I've done today.
Why?
I was gonna bust out the definition. For you real quick.
It all comes back to just impacting people's lives, right? And I think we all feel that the coaching course, by impacting coaches, that has the biggest ripple effect onto the world, right? The coaches influence the people that they serve. Those people influence their friends and family. And so if we can make a positive impact on those guys, then we are truly making an impact on the world, which is ultimately what our mission is.
Number 1, I love a good brainstorming sesh. I think it's fun when you have ideas and then your ideas coincide with someone else's ideas, and like, your notes and their notes. It's like good to see that we're all kind of thinking similar things. And when we're not thinking similar things, seeing kind of where our ideas can go together. So number 1, like more brainstorming is always a good thing. And having to plan it out afterwards, of course, having action to go along with it. And second of all, yes, this is a great segue because the focus of our podcast today is about coaching and, talking about our individual coaching course. One of the things that also is coincidental with all of us is that we make up the team for the individual coaching course for the process education. You guys as our kind of master teachers and me as the back-end admin of the course. We have lots that we're excited about in the next coming months with our next cohort coming in January 2025. We just had our first solo courser, Shane, who finished really today. And that's been exciting to see. So we've been seeing growth and we want to see more places to grow. So in the name of that, what I ask both of you to do with your social media handles is to ask your audience for coaching questions. So questions that they've been thinking about with their own coaching practice, some advice that they'd love for you to give. And I have them right here, right in front of me, and I'm going to pitch them to you. So we're just going to kind of go with this Q&A, and we just kind of wrap on what it is that, like, not literally rapping, unless that's like pertinent to how you express yourself. If so, that's fine. But let's talk about these certain things. You guys ready to go?
Yeah.
First one, and this is very relevant in terms of things that we've been doing as a process, coaching for someone during training season and during comp season. So we just wrapped up, 2 big affiliates Bengal over in Jakarta, they had their Wad Off, and then All Out in Manila, they had their All Out Games, and that was a big competition in those regions. And we saw a lot of people within the process and people with other training programs moving from training for the purpose of training to training for the purpose of competing. So, what is it like to coach someone for the training phase versus the comp phase? How do we break that down, and what's the difference?
Ed.
I saw the mental like ping pong.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, when we talk about training, we're writing training programs for individuals who are working towards a goal.
Right.
And let's say in this case, the goal is competition. We have a number of training phases, or like, categories of training phases that we like to break the lead up into, right? So we have what we call accumulation,
Right.
intensification, then we have pre-competition phase, and then we have the competition phase. And then there is a fifth stage, which is like deloads and tapers, and they kind of fit between it all. And so if I was to summarize that really quickly, the further away you are from a competition, so the further before the competition you are, the less your training typically looks like the competition. So of course we have to start by defining what is the competition. So in this case, this past weekend, the competition in both cases was a 2-day event, right? So athletes had to do 2 to 3, maybe 4 workouts in each day. And they're going to be a test of, there's going to be some strength testing in there. There's going to be some aerobic capacity testing. There's going to be some high power testing, and there's going to be gymnastics and all the crazy skills that we see in CrossFit. So we need the individual to be able to do that to a high degree, with a high degree of efficiency and execution, and to be able to handle it safely. That's really what we want to get that athlete to do. So basically, you think if that's what we got to get to, and we start working our way backwards from that. Yeah. So, when we are maybe in an accumulation training phase, maybe this is like, let's say this is, because this wasn't a big competition where it's not a main peak. I think that's a really important thing to talk about as well, because a lot of people will maybe they'll compete in multiple competitions in a year. Yeah. But typically as a coach and athlete, we've got to pick the one, maybe 2 that we really want to be at our best for. Okay. And those competitions are the ones where typically the lead-in phase is a little bit longer and a little bit more focused. Yeah. If you've got these small competitions which aren't as much of a priority, then that lead-in phase doesn't need to be so big. It can literally sometimes be just a few weeks, or maybe like a couple of months. Yeah. So let's use the example for this weekend. I think most athletes, this is kind of like middle of the off season right now. Yeah. So probably not a big priority for a lot of people, especially in the RX division. A lot of people here would just be wanting to get some competition experience, kind of put their training to the test, practice the skills of competition. So for most of these guys and girls, I would have said that the pre-competition phase, where they're really like practicing the comp, probably was 1 to 2 weekends before the actual competition. And that was about it.
Like a simulation.
Yeah, like a simulation, exactly. And probably even before the simulation, so simulations, there's 2 ways you can do it. Number 1, you can wait for the workouts to come out. Yeah. And then you actually do the workouts you can do on the weekend. And that's going to give you, the most realistic opportunity to practice the weekend. Yeah. But sometimes the workouts don't come out, 2 weeks ahead of time, or they don't come out at all. In which case, as a coach, we would program what we think might come up and create a similar format. Okay, we know we have to do 2 to 3 workouts a day, resting an hour or 2 between them, and we just create our own tests. So when you're in a competition or pre-competition phase, the intensity is really high. We're focusing most of our energy and attention on that weekend of simulation. So the rest of the week is generally going to be a little bit easier, like lower intensity, maybe just skill work, staying fresh, staying healthy, touches on your strength. But when the weekend rolls around, we pour all our eggs kind of into that basket. Yeah. But in the training phases, we're not going to be doing that. We're going to be spreading our training out throughout the week, moving between intense and less intense training days. Generally speaking, our training is going to be a little bit more biased towards lower intensity work, isolating our skills, longer, slower conditioning versus really high power intensity. We're going to be biasing health a little bit more. Yeah. Whereas in pre-competition phases, we still want to be healthy. Something we really believe in is like we want athletes to come out of competitions and be able to bounce back to life. Right. But you're going to ride that line a little bit tighter, right? We're going to push athletes to the point of almost doing too much, almost at a point where they might break, because that's really important. You got to be able to handle that intensity in the competition, because if you stay away from it, then the competition is going to potentially really expose you and do some bad things to you. Okay. You got anything you want to add?
No, I think you've done a great job summarizing, I guess, the different phases, and it applies to all sports. I would say, actually, from a programming perspective, one of the biggest mistakes that people make is because they're signing up to all these comps, they keep going in and out of like these peaking phases, which they never actually end up getting significantly better.
Well, I mean, to talk about that point, why can't you just be peaked all year?
Yeah, well, you don't have the ability to be running at your top performance all the time. It's, you think of the Olympics, people take 4 years to reach their peak,
Yeah.
So it's not to say that people won't improve or people won't get better. It's just that their rate of progression becomes slower. So I think accepting that, okay, I'm going to choose, for example, if it was someone's goal to make it to semifinals, quarterfinals is technically where I want to be peaking, because that's the stage that gets me to semis. Semis is the goal, but it wasn't to excel in semis. It was actually to make it there, right? So I just think that Ed has hit the nail on the head. The further away you are from a competition, you should be focusing on health. You should be doing things that, create structural balance. And if it was a sport that lent to using your aerobic system, making sure that you're spending slower times in those zones. And then as you get closer, you start to replicate it a little bit more. And the fun bit of all of this is it depends on the sport that you're doing. It depends on the length of the competition. If it's a one-day competition versus a multi-day competition with multiple events, different things come into play.
I wanted to quickly interrupt this episode with a quick shout out to our sponsors, Today Well Spent. I've been using this journal for 2 years and it has made a massive impact on my physical, but mostly my mental well-being. It is a guided journal backed by neuro and behavioral science, which I actually didn't know at the time. It has questions for you to answer at the start of the day, at the end of the day, end of every week, end of every month. And it's brought so much self-awareness to me of the things that positively and negatively impact my life. So if you're someone who cares about your physical and your mental well-being, which I think you do because you listen to this podcast, then go and grab yourself a Today Well Spent. Use the discount code THEPROCESS, one word in capitals, to get your discount. Yeah.
What if, and this is coming from myself as a coach, when I coach someone with a specific competition schedule where they know they're going to be doing a weightlifting competition in July and they'll be doing high rocks in November, and then we can kind of map things out. But what if you have a client who has no competition on their schedule? They're like, I don't want to compete at all. How do you then do you do anything in terms of peaking for a client if they're just training for training?
Yes, absolutely. I think this is great. We actually spoke about it in professional development yesterday about our personal training clients, and it was one of the coaches had said, well, how important is testing? Because testing is our peaking phase of a program, right? So it just depends on what that person is looking for. If that person has said, hey, I want to get really strong. Okay, well, what shows that you're strong? It's going to be lifting numbers. So let's just say they were going for a specific back squat. And we're going to run our microcycles, mesocycles, and make sure that by the end of everything, maybe we have a 2-year plan. This is when we're going to do this, right? It doesn't have to be a competition either. It can be a specific body shape. I have a client right now who is like, she's not a very goal-oriented person. So she's very much like, I just want to be healthy. I just want to feel this. And she came in, she was like, I want to look great by December.
She said that on her own?
Yeah. She came in. She was like, my husband's been challenging me. He's been asking why I train. I didn't really have a reason. And I just trusted you to help me and guide me, which you have. Like, I can see I'm getting stronger and I'm doing these things. But December, I'm going on summer holiday. I want to look great. And I was like, cool. What are you willing to do for it? So now our peaking phase is December. Like, we are working towards her summer bod. So I don't think it applies to just competitions.
Yeah. I would say that the only difference is that when we talked about those 5 different phases, pre-competition and competition phases aren't going to be, factored in for those.
I'm going to deload you for your bikini.
We don't need to add competition for everyone if it's not appropriate to their goals.
So really, for those clients who don't have competitions to peak for, we're really just moving between accumulation phases and intensification phases, right? We're going to go through phases of training which are a little bit easier, lower intensity, a little bit more biased towards health. And then we're going to go through, generally speaking, they're a bit shorter, but intensification phases where we do push a little bit hard. We strive towards peaking for a test of some sort, that test is something that we decide with the client based upon their goals. And essentially we're just moving back and forth, forever between those different training phases with different focuses. But we definitely don't need to be doing things like pre-competition and competition phases.
Okay. So I guess like the main point here is whether or not your client you're peaking for your client. You're putting your client through a peak in competition or not. It really depends upon what their season outlook is, if they have a season, what their lifestyle is, what they want in terms of training, if it's contributing to a goal. And if it's not, then you just go through like the basic phases.
Yeah, well, I think there's many ways to. You mean in terms of like deciding what to test for
For
someone?
example, like what if we even pull it back more? What if you have a client who just doesn't want to test?
Yeah, so I think that this is actually exactly what Tammy
Yeah.
said. We spoke about in our professional development session yesterday. But I think at the end of the day, like testing needs to be appropriate to the client, right? And so when we say it needs to be appropriate for the client, we really need to link testing back to the goals.
Okay.
So why is our client seeing us? What problems are we trying to solve? So I talked about an example with one of our clients right now who's coached by one of our team members. His sole goal for why he has joined Coastal and why he has hired a coach is he wants to gain 1 kilogram of lean muscle mass. That's what he wants to do.
Yeah.
He has his reasons, which are very justifiable, and I totally understand why he wants that. So for him, when it comes to testing, the most appropriate test for him is not going to be, a 5 rep max bench press or a 10 rep max back squat. The only way we're going to know if we're being successful with the training that we're prescribing is we need to find a way to track his lean body mass, right? So that's going to be body fat calipers, or you can do a skin fold test, or you're going to use an in-body machine, something where you can track how much lean muscle mass you're doing. Now, any other testing that's not that, we can say, well, if you can bench press more weight, you're clearly gaining muscle mass. But for him, he doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about how much he's bench pressing. For him, the most appropriate test is going to be after 1 month, 2 months, however long you decide the timeline is, we're going to retest your body fat mass. Okay, so that is testing still. You might have another client who does say like, okay, I would like to be able to bench press 100 kilograms for 3 repetitions, in which case the bench press is going to be the best test that you can do to know whether what you're doing is working towards something. So there almost always is something you can do. Now, sometimes there's going to be 0 performance metrics. I just want to feel healthy. I want to feel good.
Yeah.
I mean, even within these things, there's still things you can test, right? I want to sleep better. You can monitor whether you're sleeping better, right? You can wear a wearable device and really get specific metrics.
Like our job as coaches is to quantify their qualifiable goals. I guess.
Yeah, we want to find a way to quantify it. Yeah. But so I think there's always a way that you can link a test back into it.
Yeah.
And something else we talk about as well is like, well, if you really don't have anything that you can link back to the goals and what you can test, we like to talk about structural balance ratios.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. So
Is that what you were chomping at the bit about?
She's excited. I could feel it vibrating.
You want to take this out? What structural balance is and how that's the goal?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people come to us for longevity and health. And to create someone who is going to have that in their toolbox, they need to be moving in a way that makes sense. And that means having balance. Now, there's a structural balance ratio sheet where over the years of sports science, people have compiled enough information to now make percentages based on your back squat to front squat ratio, or your bench press to deadlift, or your squat to something else.
Not to put you on the spot, but as an example, give me one ratio off the top of your head.
So like deadlift should be 125% of your back squat.
There you go.
Your front squat should be 85% of your back squat.
There we go.
So these are some examples that, like as Tammy said, years and years of strength and conditioning research. It's a general grouping of people. Now, obviously, not everyone falls into those categories. There's going to be anthrometrics, like you've got long limbs, long levers, which is going to maybe make you a better hinger than a squatter.
Sure.
And you may forever have a hinge that's going to be much stronger relative to your back squat.
Just like if you're a right-handed thrower, your right side will be stronger than your left side.
Exactly.
Always.
Yeah. So, but because we have all these ratios, it's kind of a cool thing to do. The goal becomes the client. Well, you don't have any specific performance-based goals. Let's strive to make you as structurally balanced as possible.
Nice.
Yeah.
And we use that to kind of dictate what the priorities of a training cycle are, what we're going to test at the end of a set training cycle. I mean, I'm doing this with one of my clients right now. We've decided, because she's actually doing the individual coaching course. She's someone I've trained for 10 plus years. She just really wanted to upgrade her knowledge on training. And when she learned about structural ratios, she was really fascinated by it. So she plugged all her numbers into the spreadsheet.
Cool.
and was like, my deadlift is so much stronger than my back squat. And she was like, yeah, you've always said this to me, but now I can see that the ratios are right. Can we, for the next 12 weeks, try to close that gap? So absolutely, this is really cool now. You know, she's bought into Process, so we built a back squat progression, which is we're now building towards it. So we're going to build towards a 3-rep max.
Oh yeah.
In something like, I think 8 weeks, we built the progression. And then, because we've never tested a deadlift 3-rep max, we will then do a very short phase, maybe like just 3 to 4 weeks, because she is a much stronger deadlifter. 3 to 4 weeks, so then we can get some data for a deadlift 3-rep max, and then we're going to compare the two, and then that will dictate what the next year of training will look like.
Yeah,
Lovely.
I love it because it's really fun when you have people who don't understand testing to be able to be like, well, I understand that you don't necessarily have performance-based metrics, but for us to have this, for me to have this, we now get to build a library because a lot of people coming in, they don't actually have those numbers. So it's now we need to fill the library so we can see where your imbalances are, and that kind of gives us direction for the training if they didn't have a specific performance thing they're working towards.
I mean, and just to kind of end on that point, it's like your client's been with you for 10 years, and even now you're discovering things that you guys can keep working on.
Always.
Yeah, that the structural ratio route will be never ending.
Yeah.
Because as you get new things strong, there's gaps you got to close.
Yeah.
And so like you're forever trying to close the gap and improve everything.
Oh man. So I mean, everyone's got their version of a test or competition.
Yeah.
You know, if you're willing to have that conversation and kind of agree on, you know, what it is that their goal is and how you as a coach can quantify that for them.
Yeah.
Nice. On that same note about goal setting and everything, we did have a question about how to deal with lifestyle prescriptions. Now, before we get into that, like how do we best guide a person through lifestyle prescriptions and help them to adhere to it? Tammy, could you quickly break down what is a lifestyle prescription versus a training goal?
Oh, understand. So I think lifestyle prescription would actually incorporate anything that related to nutrition and lifestyle, right? So talking about their sleep cycles, making sure that their stress management is in place, making sure they hydrate well, making sure that they eat a well-balanced diet in the preference that they like. Is there anything else that falls into
Circadian
there?
rhythms.
Yeah, circadian rhythms.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking in terms of the context of this question is if you're talking about things in the gym, like a lift, for example, we're going back to the deadlift, the back squat, and that structural ratio. There's ways to go week to week to be able to progress towards that.
Yes.
Whereas lifestyle prescriptions are not going to be as easily manageable in that type of black and white sense.
Right.
Maybe you could.
Yes.
Maybe this is what our conversation is. How do you turn something like better sleep into an actual plan to adhere to it? And maybe one thing that would be helpful here is to, without naming names, kind of give us some context with one of your own clients about lifestyle prescriptions. So either of you ready to share anything about that?
Yeah, no, I love this topic.
Let's do it.
I think the funnest part of all of this is that training prescriptions and lifestyle prescriptions actually do fall into the same thing with principles, right? So it's just different methods of doing different things, but the principles remain the same where you want progressive overload, right? So you were saying there isn't really a way to make it tangible or trackable. There actually is. And I think that perhaps what I would say as a coach that has been in this for long enough now is people just start with too much complexity. So it's our job as a coach to show someone and build success through really, really small steps.
Okay.
So examples of it might mean things like, I'm trying to think of my most recent client, my client today, actually.
Okay.
We had spoken about his current lifestyle and how he wasn't really willing to change too much about what he was doing. I was like, cool. Well, let's look at what you do and see if we can make any adjustments to that specifically. So he was someone who didn't really accumulate many steps in a day. He lives at a different side of Hong Kong, which means he has the luxury of having a car, but with that comes little to no steps.
I see.
He does, however, walk his dog. And I was like, cool, how long do you walk your dog for? And he was like, oh, like 15 minutes. I was like, can you make it like a 20 to 30 minute walk? And he was like, I'd actually really like that because for him, that time of day, he has 2 kids, he has a wife, he has a busy job. He's always like on the go. It's actually his time. He was like, I would love to make that walk longer. And just by implementing that as an example, his step count has gone up. Okay. I think things like, water intake is another example with people where someone struggles to have enough fluids. Introducing small things like, okay, well, what are current things that you do? How can we improve on this? And it might mean, cool, when they wake up, they're having 1 glass of water.
I see.
And that starts as the starting point. The progressive overload from there would be after they've had breakfast, they'll have another half a glass.
What it sounds like, Yeah, what it sounds like is what you're doing
Yes.
is like you're just kind of talking them through what their behaviors are right now,
Yes.
and seeing if you can connect their current behaviors with the goals that they
Exactly.
have.
It's
Right?
way easier to work on what they have than to uphaul everything. It's like saying someone comes to you and they are, I don't know, they've only ever done Olympic weightlifting.
Yeah.
And then now you're like, oh, but we're going to use Hyrox as your methodology. You know, like, why? Why not be like, okay, you want structural balance and you want to create a healthier body. Let's kind of utilize movements, and some principles, and just adjust a few things.
Right. It's like the going back to your client about, he's going to get his daily steps in increase because of he'll be walking his dog more. What you didn't say was, can you give me like 30 minutes every Saturday to go for a hike?
Exactly. I'm not trying to create something extra or additional. I'm just utilizing what they have as the toolbox to expand on.
Okay. Takeaways like just build upon their current habits and see how you can add more to it.
Ed?
Yeah, I'll just add, I mean, spot on with everything Tammy said. I think, even going back a step, like when it comes to making changes to people's lifestyle, lifestyle habits, is the first thing we have to do, just like we do an assessment when we look at someone move, we do a movement assessment. On the course, we teach people how to do body assessments. We do a capacity assessment. All these assessments gives us a chance to collect data. And then we look at the data and we decide what do we need to prioritize first relative to the goals. Lifestyle is exactly the same. We need to start by finding a way to collect data. So often that's things like a food diary, getting someone to, write down what they do from start to end of the day. If we can measure things like step counts, we need to collect all the data first. And then we have that client's goal in mind. And then we simply just look at all of it. And we just say, because at the end of the day, the goal is how can we make the biggest change? How can we make the biggest impact with the least amount of change? That should always be what we're striving for, right? The path of least resistance. So we just look at everything. And sometimes I think this is where coaches get overwhelmed, is because they look at what the client's eating on a daily basis, what they're doing, how much they're moving, how much water they're drinking. And there may be like, in their eyes, 100 red flags. There's 100 things that they could do better that would make them more quote unquote healthy or optimal. And then they go about trying to attack all 100 things at the same time, which is incredibly overwhelming. It's the same thing in training. If we said, okay, well, we've got 2 days to train a week, we're going to try and improve your back squat 1RM, deadlift 1RM, snatch 1RM, clean and jerk 1RM.
I've never done that before.
You know what I mean? So, when you're trying to do everything, what you end up doing is you put a lot of work and you get very little return because you're not doing enough on anything to make lasting changes. It's exactly the same here. So, like Tammy said, we've got to look at the things that they're already doing and how can we, make micro adjustments that slowly over time start to compound and add up and make improvements. And of course, a big part of this is like, we got to turn things into habits as much as we possibly can.
I see.
Right. So I think we have a tendency as coaches to also rush through the process, which it might be in Tammy's case, for example. Okay, we want to get more steps in because that's going to add to more calorie expenditure. And that's going to link back to your goal of, reducing body weight and feeling more confident in your skin.
Sure.
So then, we say, let's walk the dog from rather than 20 minutes, let's go to 30 minutes. And they do that for 1 week and they come back and you say, were you successful? And they say, yes. I'm like, great, let's go into the next thing. And we just move on to the next thing. And suddenly now we've piled 3-4 things on top of that one thing that we haven't really, ingrained yet. So what starts to happen is they go the next week and they go to the next thing and then they stop walking their dog for 30 minutes. That goes back to 20. And we get stuck in this cycle where we're trying all this stuff and nothing's actually improving simply because we're just being a little bit impatient and we just need to slow down, let things stick first. Because if we can really and I can understand why we do it as coaches, we want to make impact now. The more impact we can make faster, the more our worth's going to be, the more they're going to stay with us. But if we can really take this long-term view, and of course, education is super important. We got to communicate intention on why we're doing things, make sure they really understand. But just slowing down that process, especially with the lifestyle stuff, more than exercise, I would say, is super, super important.
I think I have more to add to this. I think something that's really important that you touched on was having some sort of assessment. So actually within the coaching course, at least not in it itself, but when we have our catch-up calls, what I've done is created a questionnaire to give your clients because I want people to have like this 1 to 10 scaling system where they rate themselves on different aspects and it falls into a category. So when you see the biggest red flag of a certain category, that would be your lowest hanging fruit and the best starting point. The second part of working with clients for the nutrition and lifestyle, they need to have buy-in and they need to create autonomy and they need to be part of the decision-making process. It isn't our responsibility as a coach to choose what they have to do. It's these are the things that have been highlighted. What would you like to do? How do you see this panning out? And more often than not, our clients have those answers. They've just probably tried something that's a little too hard for them, or they've read something that they should be doing something. So it's our job to now remove those expectations and those shoulds that they give themselves and be like, let's create success together. Like, do this. And my biggest thing is always like, someone says I can do it. I'm like, okay, now prove it.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see it. And like Ed said, it's not prove it for a week. Anyone can do something for a week. It's like, prove that you can stick to this and then we'll move forward. And I think that having them bought in, feeling like they made the decision of what they're doing, then creates this lovely cycle where eventually they're coming to you with problems and the solution. Hey, I'm thinking of doing this. And I'm like, yes, you are. It's awesome.
Okay, so like at the end of this process, there's a little bit of rewiring in the brain of how to
They
how
know how to
make
do
those
it.
connections on their own.
Exactly.
Right on. I mean, I'm seeing more and more of these parallels between in gym training and out of gym lifestyle, right? Of, your client who's thinking about structural balance ratios, starting to make this conversation on her own, and your client talking about lifestyle prescriptions and seeing those changes. Now they're initiating that conversation because now they can see their world, their life in a new lens with how to structurally create change for themselves in a 9 out of 10 like process kind of way, where nine times out of 10 they can do it.
Yeah.
Nice. Lovely. This is, I mean, I'm really into all these things.
I always
I
love-
thought you
I
said
always
into
love these
you. I
ones.
was like, thank you.
I'm into your answers and everything. Moving on to the next thing that I want to ask about, especially because someone asked about it before in our Q&A, is the importance of social media in terms of education. So social media is all part of our lives, for better, for worse. One quick tidbit about social media and like device use is in my home state of California, they just officially banned student cell phone use in the classroom, where depending on the school, you might only be able to access your phone during lunchtime or not until the end of the day.
Good.
High school.
I like
or
that.
like
School.
school.
Yeah, because the research
approve
keeps
of
showing the anxieties and the social pressures and the lack of actual interaction of students in school, because once they get bored or uncomfortable or they get into a situation where they don't want to socialize, they'll go straight to their phone. So this is an ongoing issue and point of conversation is, if social media is can be so unhealthy, how about the other side of that, education? So with the idea of social media can be a tool for bad or for good, what is your take on education on social media?
So it's basically using it as like a learning platform.
Yeah, does it work? Does it not work? How can it work?
I really like it. I often go to social media for there are certain pages that I follow that I think put out really good stuff, like research backed information, and they always show the research, and they found a way to present that in like digestible imagery, which I think is really cool.
I see you often refer to like WOD science.
I love WOD science. I think they're awesome. But I will just say that I rarely will take what I see on Instagram as gospel. It's like, for me, it's like quick hits of potentially useful information.
I see.
But obviously an Instagram post can't go into depth, right? So you're going to get the highlight reel, you're going to get the fancy stuff, but you're not really going to get, the details. For example, if it's a research backed piece of information, you're not going to get details on the study, who were the tough subjects, how long did it last, all the really important things, I think, that really validates the efficacy of research. So it's just another tool that I like to use. It's super accessible. It's easy. It can be like something I can jump on and get some inspiration and knowledge in 5-10 minutes, but it doesn't replicate a textbook, doesn't replicate a course. Podcasts for me can go like another level deeper as well, just because like the volume, how much you get from a podcast. So I guess I will answer this as like, I like it as a tool for learning, but it should not be the only tool.
Okay.
It needs to be a part of a more well-rounded
It's almost like it's a lead generator for learning.
Yeah. I guess so. In some ways, but I've definitely taken. Oh, it's got a cramp in my hamstring. Ooh, shit! Seeing hell, my heart rate just.
Wait, what just happened? Because it was so sudden.
My hamstring just almost went to full seizure there. That was good.
Seems like you're real healthy, mate.
Yeah. I did upper body today as well. Okay. Anyhow, so yes, like use Instagram as a tool for learning for sure, but do your research as well on what you read. Don't take it for gospel. Bear in mind, there's a lot of people looking to capture your attention as quickly and as efficiently as possible, which means that there's a lot of stuff out there. I mean, fitness influencers are probably the one group of people that get the most shit on Instagram. And I think, quite rightly so. Like everyone's using their bodies to try and grab attention and sell you something.
Yeah.
And so you just got to be wary. Like make sure your resources are trusted, and do your extra research and learning beyond that.
I mean, what you're saying is basically what kids are being taught or starting to get taught more and more is just social media literacy of don't take what you see on social media as the truth. And, you have to question everything, whether it's a reputed news source or someone's blog or a YouTube video. Use that as a starting point and look at other sides, look at related things, do your research, and then come up with your own, I guess, conclusion, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, conclusions and takeaways, yeah.
Yeah. Tammy?
I definitely agree with a lot of what Ed had said. Personally, I don't really just follow anything on Instagram. I tend to follow a lot of either meme pages or educational content that interests me and people who I really look up to or probably have like similar philosophies and values and belief systems of the way that they educate. So, I actually get a lot of really helpful and great information out there. And I think that having the ability to connect with other people in a similar industry and ask about questions I have on stuff that they've put up or things that I've experienced or questions that I may have just in general is really, really cool. But the flip side of that is that, like Ed mentioned, there is also a lot of stuff out there that perhaps doesn't quite align with what I believe in because someone's probably just taking the standpoint of how can I get as much publicity as possible? I'm going to be really controversial and say something that is like out there, but build a life on that. And it just makes it really hard sometimes as a coach because you'll have clients, or specifically I can think of like 3 clients that I have who are quite into social media. And I might say one thing and I don't have a very dogmatic way to my coaching. I like to ask questions and seek clarity of like what they mean and be like, well, this is just one way. It could be this. So it's very interesting to hear the things that they come back with based on what they've taken as gospel off social media. Like I saw this person who looks like this and they did this. Should I do that? It's like, wow. Like it's quite mind blowing.
That's a loaded question.
Yeah, it's a really loaded question. So I'm like, okay, well, let's like put this into perspective and let's like go through all the pros and cons. Like I'm trying to like be really diplomatic to be like, at the end of the day, you need to decide what's right or wrong for you. But personally, this is what I believe, right? So the next layer to that as well is just when we are working with clients, I think that there is a phase of when people are like trying to learn everything, but then learn nothing at the same time because they either jump into one sort of belief system and only look at that. If you look for anything to prove something, you can find it. Like
100%.
that's, like if I'm just looking for like a science study to prove something and it's got like one peer review, people don't put into perspective that you need to have a lot of things collectively to then have it be strong evidence. And that's just the way my brain works because I think I have quite a science mind, but not a lot of people feel that way or think that way. And they're like, but look this. And I'm like, yeah, but like there's nothing else to back that up kind of thing. So I think something I try to tell my clients is just be wary of what you read and, try and educate yourself and find out further information. Don't just take it for gospel, but also if things are making you question and doubt the process that you're on, I think it's really important for you to detach and have less information overload because more information isn't helping their situation. It's making it harder for them to focus on what they're actually working on.
Yeah. I would say that in the accounts that I follow, I really like your hamstring just cramped.
No, the chair nearly just broke.
My quad has been twitching ever since you talked about your hamstring, right, by the way.
There you go.
Empathy.
What what was I thinking? Yeah, the accounts that I follow, I like accounts who take more neutral stances.
Same.
And there's two sides of every coin.
Sure.
Right? We know in health and wellness, health and fitness, research, science, there's things can work for some people and they can't work for others.
Mm.
And I tend to gravitate towards people who like to share well thought out opinions on how a piece of information or a piece of science or research or whatever can work for different markets or different people, be applied to different situations. I do not really follow people who like shout from the rooftops that this is the best way and that this is not.
That's a red flag to you.
It's a red flag for me for sure. So as soon as I start to see that, I'm like, okay, I'm probably not. I'm probably gonna unfollow this person. Yeah, I like to hear like rationalize arguments for and against. That's like what I enjoy. And like I said, like then you got to form your own opinion.
Sure.
I would say that most of the content that, you know, like you said, Tammy, clients will send me things that they've seen, and often without anything, it's just a send and it's just a video.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you trying to tell me? You know,
Thanks.
do you agree with this? Do you disagree with this? But almost every time clients send me that, it's one of those people who is basically shouting from the rooftops that this is the best way to do it, and that all other ways is bad, or vice versa. They're saying that this is really bad, you should not do it.
Yeah.
And you can understand why they say it's very captivating. It makes you question the hell out of everything you've done. These people have big followings, so people immediately associate that with efficacy, like, and validity.
This person's got to be right if they have
they've got to be
100,000
right. They've
followers.
got all these people following, but
Yeah.
so I think it's almost always those people that, and I just say, listen, let's do a research. I mean, I rarely just, the one thing I always want to do in those instances is reply back and be like, come on. Seriously, but that's not going to get you anywhere, right? At the end of the day, if you want to help this person be able to sift through this crazy world of social media and actually start to figure out what is useful and what is not useful information, then you just got to have conversations, right? And you got to have conversations about why this might be good, why this might not be good.
Yeah. I mean, there's just the missing part with any of this online social media education is nuance, right? Because any of these things that, if this works, it really depends on the person and their goals and what their life is like. For example, like something as simple as intermittent fasting, right? Right. For some people, it just works for their lifestyle. And for other people, you know, it's a good way to limit their calorie intake if they're looking for a caloric deficit, for example. But then if you have someone else who's saying it's what our ancestors did and therefore it's good for us, you know, and really shouting that from the rooftops, you know, if you're unsure about any process, having that doubt creep in is an easy way, I guess, to throw off your own adherence to any process.
Yeah. I would say if there's anyone listening that feels like that happens to them, I think that always remember what's working for you. I had someone, actually one of my clients the other day, who was also speaking about intermittent fasting, which is why that was just like, boom.
Yeah.
So she was like, you know, I want to make some changes. My husband does intermittent fasting. I think I'm going to join him. And I was like, awesome. Have you tried it before? What's your history with this? And she was like, yeah, I did. It didn't really work. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. So what have you done in the past that has worked? And then she listed off these things that did work. And I was like, so just curious, but why would you do the thing that's working for your husband if you know it hasn't worked for you before and it wasn't something that was sustainable, but you have things in the toolbox that have worked. So it's kind of like always focus on what has worked for you. Of course, experimentation, sometimes you need to try whether or not something works, but don't get bought into what everyone else is doing because it depends.
I would love to just end this question and go to the next one, but this just triggered something. I recently just got
triggered a hamstring response.
I got basically sucked into all the things I've been talking about with people getting sucked in social media, taking it for gospel. I got sucked into it when I started playing golf. So I started following all these golf accounts, right? Because I was just looking for tips on how to improve my swing. And every single golf expert, and there are thousands out there, all making really good content. And this is the one drill that is going to change your golf game.
Lol.
And so
They were all saying the same drill.
No, they all had their own drill.
One guy filming in his backyard.
So you had 5 drills to change your golf life.
So every day, my algorithm, right, was just throwing new drills at me, and I would watch this drill and I'd be like, that makes total sense. That is a drill I need. So then I would go, either to the simulator upstairs or whenever on a Thursday I go on the golf course, and I'd be thinking about this drill, and my golf game literally went from crap to really shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just so overconsumed. And it was funny. I watched a video of Tiger Woods. Someone posted, again, my algorithms were just everything golf.
Yeah.
Tiger Woods is on the driving range, and someone, the guy on the behind the camera says, "Tiger, what's one piece of advice you would give to people trying to get good at golf?" He's like, Tiger said, "Stop watching fucking YouTube." Right, and I was like, "Yes, Tiger."
Were you like, that's a personal attack?
I was like,
It's funny that you mention that because sometimes I have to go into the Process YouTube channel to go in the back end, and it'll show you as a user your behaviors.
Yeah.
Literally, like out of the 20 videos that are in the menu, 18 have to do with golf.
I think you'll find that's a lot less now because I'm watching a lot less.
17.
But so really, exactly what Tammy said. Sometimes you've just got to remove that.
Yeah.
Step away from it.
Yeah.
And after hearing Tiger Woods say that, I was like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah.
No more golf tips. I had a lesson up in the simulator. It was really helpful. That's all I need. I don't need anything else in that. And it has actually been the best thing for my golf. So I've gone from really shit back to crap again.
Okay. So be a healthy consumer of this content and have a healthy amount of skepticism to go along with it.
Yeah.
And don't overwhelm yourself. And once you start feeling those little pangs of being overwhelmed by information, you probably are, take a step back.
Yes.
All right. Moving on from with social media is the idea of target audiences. And as coaches, that's something that we always have to consider, right? Like for us, who is our audience? Who are the clients that we want to reach out to? And this question is, do coaches need a niche? And to give you some context into this, what we mean by that is like, do you have a specific type of client in mind when you're coaching? Should you be reaching out for a specific audience, or should you be open to coaching everybody? Right. And if I may, because I'm the host, I'm going to answer this question first. Is when I started, I thought I would be a good generalist to work with people who wanted to improve their CrossFit skills. When I got into the practice of it, I actually did not find it very fulfilling. I think probably because it was so close to my own training that it was just more the same thing. And I found that my niche are people who've never been to the gym and they want me to guide them how to feel confident in the gym and feel like they're capable. So like my favorite sessions right now are with complete beginners where they have so many questions and they want to feel confident.
Questions. You told us.
I know it's my favorite, but I'm getting asked questions and I get to answer them about, this person's talking about how to squat better and how squatting is helping her get up a flight of stairs, how all these different things within the gym is making her more effective as a person outside of the gym and that she feels really confident in the gym. So my niche right now, because of my experience in coaching so far, is total newcomers. And that just like lights me up.
And so it sounds like this niche kind of like naturally carved its way
for sure.
out.
Yeah, I think that's
started with what you thought you wanted to do,
right?
And then by process of almost like elimination, I don't like that. I don't want this. I don't enjoy this. You've now arrived
so good,
at your person.
Yeah, and I thought, when I think I wrote down my niche at one point about this whole CrossFit thing, and I was so convinced that was it. But then in practice, it was just not something that I'm more than happy to do it, and I have CrossFit clients. But at the same time, I know that if I'm going to take on a new client, that's the kind of client I'm looking for because that's where I feel most effective and most invested. You can hear it in my voice probably how I'm excited about it. So, how about you guys? How did you find your niche, and how important to you is having a niche type of client?
Yeah, so I think in stage 6 of the course, where we start to dive into a lot of personal questions for our students, like your values. Your career, who do you want to work with, how do you want to serve them? This is one of the big questions is around the idea of a niche. Like, who do you really want to serve, and why? Like, we talk about your origin story, like, why did you become a coach, and then is that now linked to what you're trying to pay forward to the people you're serving, etc., etc. So I think when I first started, I really didn't have a niche. It was just, I want to coach anyone who's willing to pay me to coach them. I'm going to say yes to.
There was no filter.
Zero filter. I think naturally because I had been an athlete, and I think a lot of people who initially reached out to me to coach them knew that I had been an athlete. I just stopped playing international rugby, and Hong Kong's a small place, so a lot of people knew that.
Sure.
Naturally, a lot of like quite athletic people would come to me, maybe people who are already playing sports, and that was just a natural thing that kind of happened. And but there was also just a lot of people who didn't know that, just general population people. And I think just as the journey has gone on, I have worked with so many different people that if you were to ask me, like, who do you really like working with? I'd honestly say that there is a pretty broad, there's a pretty broad population of people that I get a lot of fulfillment with.
Mhm.
You know, I don't do that much in-person coaching these days. A lot of it's just online or working with our group training programs, the process. But I do have a number of personal training clients who are very much general health clients who I've been coaching for 10 plus years
Yeah.
now, multiple times a week. And honestly, they are some of my favorite hours in my week. But I also really enjoy working with high level athletes, especially in the sport of CrossFit. But that's just because I feel like I have a lot to give those people.
Sure.
So like what I will just say about niches, because I'm kind of here saying I don't really have a specific niche,
Yeah,
but I
that's what I'm
definitely
hearing.
would say that I definitely probably lean more towards athletic populations.
Mhm.
And if there's any sport, CrossFit is definitely the one that I'm really passionate about and I feel like I have a really good skill set in. But I would say that advantages of having a niche, like if you know that this is a type of person that I want to train, and this is where I really enjoy training, this is what I'm really good at, it definitely helps when it comes to, like I think growing your brand.
Mhm.
All right, I think the more clear cut something is, the easier it is for people to find you. The more narrow the target audience is, the more I'm not articulating this very well.
But the more that target audience can feel and know with confidence that you're speaking to them.
Yeah, and I think just being an absolute expert in a field is really people always want to work with the best in the field.
Yeah.
Right? Like you want to work with the best person. If you are that person because that is just who you deal with, then that's a massive advantage. And I would
Mhm.
say that, when it comes to myself, when I think about niches, I think I wear lots of different hats, and I'm not even just talking about the clients that I work with, but also my job responsibilities. I'm not just a coach to athletes or general population. Like I run a business, um, I help affiliates. We educate coaches, we educate clients on group platforms. There's loads of things that I'm really really interested in, and I honestly love all of them. And I would say that I love having the variety in my life because I think if I was super laser focused on just one group and one job,
Yeah.
I think I would get a bit bored. I think I crave the variety. So I would say there are definitely advantages to it. And I would say that me, like yourself, Chris, my niches have come about through trial and error and experimentation.
Yeah.
And I think, just going through working with so many different people, really in my early days, never saying no to anyone.
Mhm.
And then really figuring out, okay, do I have the skill set? Do I have the tools to actually be good
Yeah.
at doing this? There's been many cases where I've taken on someone and I haven't been very good and I haven't had the tools and the skill set to be able to help them. But I persevered to build the skill sets and the
Yeah.
tools. And now it's actually become a strength and something that I really enjoy doing because I've gone out and done it. So, I think when it comes to trying to find your niche, you can't just say no because you find a certain type of niche challenging or you feel like you don't have the skill set now.
Mhm.
Like you can learn, you can develop it, yeah. Have thoughts?
Yeah, that was a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah. Do you like to start? Would you say you have a niche or you don't?
I think I would say that I don't have a specific niche that I target because of having probably a reduced schedule. I like working with multiple avenues. And the reason for that is because one part of me absolutely loves helping Gen Pop. I love the client relationship building side of it. I love proving that they are far more capable than they could have ever thought. Like that
making
for
a
me.
big impact.
Yeah, like you really make big impacts with people in Gen Pop, right? The other side of me is I am a competitive athlete and I have had that history. I don't personally strive to work with competitive athletes, but I love using my coaching skills.
Mhm.
When I say that, I love helping people refine their movement. I love talking mindset. I love talking about nutrition. So I think I have a wealth of knowledge that I love to share. And that means I'm also in a very, I'm trying to say it. I am in a really good position in life where I guess because of the skill sets that I've built over time and the reputation I've built for myself over time, I never have quiet seasons or parts.
Mhm.
And that therefore means I am in demand and I get to choose who I want to work with. I think niches become more important to people who don't have that as much. It's now, okay, you don't have a huge market of people coming to you. So what can you offer that's different? What can you do that resonates with you? What can you do to build a community that trusts you? And sometimes having that one thing that you talk about all the time is the thing that does that. Like you said, speaking to people's pain points and speaking to things that people are looking for, because as coaches, we are problem solvers. People have problems. What problem do you want to solve? Get really good at that.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're only tied to that ever. It just means it might be a good stepping stone. The second thing to that, sorry, Ed, I know you're about to talk.
Good.
Is that I just think that it really depends where you are in your career.
Yep.
And it's never a problem to pivot and change.
Sure.
I think when you first start, you have to just be open to things. You need experience. And part of that is just learning what your unique abilities are. Like if you had asked me years ago, did I think my ability was to educate? I don't know if I would have known that about myself, but I've found, and I think that this is actually where Ed's niche is. It's education. He educates affiliates. He educates coaches. He educates his clients.
Yeah.
So actually, that's the niche. It's the niche of educating on a whole rather than a specific audience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's just the experience of education.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that one of the important parts is understanding that, okay, I just need to experience things. And there are going to be waves where you have more or less of things. But like you had mentioned, you might have ideas you've built of things you think you're interested in, but then you start it. Like for me, coaching CrossFitters is not what I enjoy in terms of like doing their programming and all of that.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of effort and there's not much return. Like I guess for me, maybe the athletes that I had worked with at the time weren't extremely mindful. Like I love my Gen Pop people who just give a lot, like in terms of like how conversations, even my online clients, like they're awesome. Great banter, like the connections there, right? So anyway, what I was trying to say with this is on a whole, expose yourself to a lot. Figure out what it is that you like and what you don't like. Lean into the things you're really good at and that you do like. And then that will steer the ship as you guide your design of your career. And that's going to change and evolve over time. And I think one of the things that people need to understand is it's okay to relinquish something you used to do. You don't have to hang on and be that person. If that it's not, you are not that thing. It's not your identity. Yeah, exactly. Like be malleable, be open to change because life is ever changing. The fitness industry is ever changing. So I think it's important to be able to define who you are and who you want to serve. But again, it can be broad. It doesn't have to be one thing.
Yeah. I would say too, like one common takeaway. You want to say something? One common
Just waving because you're so far away.
Hi. One common thing is ask people, kind of like who does it seem I like to train? I mean, from the outside, Tammy's seeing Ed coaching in the realm of education, and that really like lights him up. And then you're saying, "Oh, Chris loves questions and stuff." So that's probably why I like coaching the clients that I like to coach. And I think that is another thing that we do in Stage 6 is we ask our coaches who are taking the course to ask their friends, the people in their life, their friends and family, to describe themselves in these ways. Like, what are the things I'm good at? What are the things I'm effective in? How do you see me as a person? All these different things. So getting that outside perspective can be helpful, having you kind of identify your strengths and your weaknesses and what you can do.
Can I jump in one more time?
Yeah.
Maybe multiple, but one for now. I think maybe my biggest takeaway from this conversation is it's not necessarily about the niche that you're looking to get into. It's about defining you and your personal brand, your belief system, your values, and that is what will carry you forward because those things stay similar.
Yeah.
I don't think your values shift a lot.
Yeah.
It's like things that you're either aspiring to have, but like you said, with your unique abilities, your unique talents, the things that people have said about your personality, like a lot of the things that you'll find are these attributes that come out of it. Like I'm someone who operates with integrity. I'm someone who operates with honesty. Like I will keep my clients, accountable for the things that they have. So I think it just allows people to connect to the values that the coach would have.
Yeah. Yeah. Who you are as a coach is really an extension of who you are as a person.
Yep. Or it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Excellent conversation. I'm going to cap it there because that was enough of the questions to talk about. We talked about it before. We can break it down in the show notes and everything. But I'm very excited about kind of where we are as a team for the process education. Again, we do have our January course in 2025. If you have questions about that, please ask us directly. We also have our solo course, which is available right now, which is a totally self-run version. We had one guy who finished it in 2 months, record time. And we also have our free course that's available all the time and has great takeaways with the total price of $0, Hong Kong or US or otherwise. If you guys have any questions, do contact us at The Process Education or Chris or Tammy or Ed. Anyways, we'll see you guys later and keep learning.